Let's draw a half-body portrait of a horned woman. I have to mention, she is made of clay, YouTube, so that's not skin, and so it is not a nude portrait. Well, hello there, I'm Détroit. I realized a few days ago that I haven't drawn a portrait in a while for YouTube, or even in general. These days I've been focusing on abstract a lot, and also a lot on perspective. This drawing started with a perspective grid, this one a 1-point perspective. I have this sketch going on as well. And my last portrait was over a month and a half ago. It's time to do something about it. I, of course, am using reference for this drawing. It's a nice picture with a good pose to the side with the hands raised. It's a very expressive pose. Instead of this expression, which was more playful, I wanted more of a gentle feeling, a maternal vibe. More on that a bit later. The picture I'm using for reference came from the Instagram page for Persephone, but unfortunately I can't really show the full picture here. The woman in the reference isn't very close at all, but is body painted instead. Because this platform doesn't really like that, it is very important that I specify that my character is actually made of clay. This isn't skin I'm going to represent, it's basically just molded dirt. It's closer to a statue than it is a birthday suit female body, alright? While I'm at it, she is not horny, she just has horns. Really, it's not what you think. I really hope YouTube won't give me any trouble when I try to upload the video. If it does, you'll see it because I will have to blur parts of it, even though I really don't show anything. So from the start, I wanted this character to have a double set of horns. I like adding horns to characters. Their shape gives a nice silhouette, and 4 horns instead of 2 is fun. I had pretty much completed my sketch when I realized I didn't like the hair that much. When that happens, I duplicate the sketch layer and erase the parts that I don't like and try again. Just in case, I still keep the older sketch, because sometimes it's hard to replicate a face orientation and things like that. With the second attempt at sketching hair, I'm satisfied. Normally, it would be the moment I start inking my sketch, and this is exactly what I do next. Instead of a proper inking though, I'm actually doing another sketch, but a bit more refined. I don't want the line art to take too much space visually. Although the distinction between this sort of sketching and inking is very thin, for me it is important that I consider it sketching. Sketching is looser and more free, and inking tends to feel more definite and stiff. There is less pressure going to colors over a sketch compared to color over inking. So now that the inking is done, I think we can move on to the coloring. Before that, let's note that I didn't ink the cracks/tattoos. Because yeah, once again, this isn't skin, so this isn't tattoos. The body is made of clay, so these are cracks. But I'll color them straight away, and since they are quite thin, inking them would have put too much emphasis on them. On the other hand, the hole on her belly is large, and so I inked it. It was also to make sure the hole was centered. I'm sorry, I forgot to talk about the hole earlier. There is a hole. There you go. Now, on the topic of coloring, don't let the magic of editing fool you. Here are 10 seconds of failed coloring attempts that I chose to discard from the video process. Turns out it's kinda hard to paint a woman with the color tones of fire. I ended up drawing with rather usual skin tones instead of fully reds and oranges. At first I wanted a stronger fire theme. You see, in my headcanon, this woman is the mother of Infernos. She's like a high-class demon that gave birth to hell. This is why her insides are pure fire, and we will see that from the belly hole and the tattoo cracks. This is also why I wanted a motherly pose, and her looking soft, even if she's a demon with 4 horns. In the end, her skin ended up looking like regular skin, except with the very dry texture of the brush I'm using. You know, I messed up this painting a few times. I got lost in the process a lot. Like, this wasn't really smooth sailing. It shows that when you don't practice one aspect of art, you lose it quite quickly. I felt like I lost my ability to draw a portrait, but it also came back quickly, so that's fine. It's okay if you get setbacks like this one, is my main point. I think not only I got my skills back, I also improved a little. There is something I've always been struggling with, and that's backlighting on the human body. In this particular case, it's front lighting, since the main light source is up on the right, and so the backlight comes from down left. Because the background is this soft but intense blue, a bluish tone will be reflected on the woman's front side, her belly being the prime example. Painting that reflected tone, for me, has always been really hard. Now I feel like I kinda understand it a bit, even though I couldn't put it into words. Because the backlight here will appear blue, but it's blue on the orange peachy skin. If you take a color picker, it's not necessarily blue. This is why it is so hard to paint. Of course, you can take a shortcut and use the background blue and then fudge around with layer styles and opacity, but that doesn't really help understand exactly what's going on. I think also a good tip for that is to add the backlight at the same time as you add the reddish saturated glow next to the primary light. Look at the hip on the right, for example. The hip is partly white because of the light. As a delimitation between the white and the rest, there is a red sort of vertical line. It is due to the light being scattered right under the skin and adding that sanguine tone. That saturated red tone next to the desaturated blue backlight makes it work even better. Alright, we're already moving along the process pretty fast, and I didn't even get the chance to mention the hair. During the inking process, I greatly simplified the shape of the hair compared to the sketch. I think making large strands and ribbon-like hair shapes works better. Then, with the paint, it is easier to make the light flow on the hair surface. As for the color of the hair, well, it is exactly the same as the fire inside the belly hole. I also used the same colors for the horns, but then I added a mask to change the saturation a bit and make the horns a bit more dull. Finally, I'm satisfied with the painting on all my layers, which are the horns, the face, the hair, the rest of the body, and the arms. I put the arms on a separate layer to allow me to paint the body as one, from the belly to the chest, without having to paint differently over the arms. The front arm is lighter than the chest area, so it was easier to have it on another layer. Anyway, the coloring feels good. It is now time for the final painting part, which corresponds to painting in the cracks or tattoos all over the woman's body. This is an easy process. I'm drawing the shapes in brown, then with each new layer as a clipping mask, I'm going lighter, from brown to red, to orange, and finally yellow. I am also playing around with the circular gradient because I want the middle of the chest area to be the source of the hotter fire, so the lighter color. The arms, for example, are far away from her chest, and so the fire is a bit more dull. Same for the hips, the cracks there are more red than they are yellow. And I think we're almost good to go. Because the background so far has been pretty boring, I'll make a shadow by duplicating all the layers and merging them. Then I color the entire silhouette in black and lower the opacity. What I like to do with shadows like these is make them interesting by breaking them into different parts and add random inclinations on them. Like here, the bottom of the shadow goes to the left, but the top comes back to the right. I don't know why, but I think it's fun to do rather than have a flat shadow. I hope you enjoyed this painting process. It's always fun to use textured brushes when unnecessary. I hope you can take away a few tips by looking at my process, be it for coloring skin or hair, or simply a vibe. Tell me in the comments what you would like to see me draw next, and subscribe to be sure not to miss future videos. All my art is on Instagram, and I'll see you in a week. Bye!